this was 1995. I graduated from college, got my engineering degree, was working as an engineer. I was in East Texas, but the economy was kind of poor, and I got laid off. I was laid off from designing some air conditioning systems for aircraft, but that's not really that important. But the thing was that my employer, since I was just a contract engineer, I just got cut off. Didn't have any unemployment insurance, didn't have any medical benefits. I had very little savings. And that's when the old heater in our house decided to start having issues. And the problem was that the pilot light would go out. And that's normally not a major problem because most modern heaters are designed that if the pilot light goes out, it stops cycling the gas. But this was an old heater, and it didn't have that safety feature. And so it would get cold. It would start heating the house, and then the pilot light would go out. And it was thinking, hey, it's getting really cold. I need to really pump this thing going. And so it would cycle and it would pump raw gas into the house. And that was very dangerous because I had a wife and two small children at that point. But I really didn't have any money for spare parts and certainly couldn't hire a technician to come in. And so I tinkered with it the best I could. And so over the weeks, I got a routine down where when I would smell gas or if it got cold, I would go to the heater. I would open the cabinet up and take the front of the heater off, and then I would turn off the gas, and I would turn on the exhaust fan. We had a nice exhaust fan in the house, and make sure all the gas fumes were out. And then I would relight the pilot light, and then turn on the gas, clean off the burners, watch them very carefully, make sure that they would stay alight. And then once things were stable, I would close everything up and go back about my business. Well, one night, this seemed to happen so many times, I had simply lost count how many times it had happened. And it was getting very late in the night, in fact, very early in the morning, and I had hardly any sleep. And I got up at one point, and I was groggy with sleep deprivation. I was probably inhaling some gas fumes, wasn't thinking clearly. And I was so tired of that routine. So I got out of bed, didn't even turn on the lights. I wanted to turn that furnace on, go right back to bed. I got out to the hallway, opened the door, took the front of the furnace off. And I thought, I'll just throw a match in here. Part of my mind said, Carl, that's a bad idea. That's really not safe. But as a kid, I played with fire most of my life, and I got away with singed eyebrows was the worst of it. And so I took this box of wooden matches, and I struck a match, and I threw that flaming thing right into the furnace, and I did not even see it land. There was this flash of bright light. I heard a whoosh, and it felt like somebody took a hot mattress and just walloped me right across the hallway into the wall. I slid down. I was sitting there in the darkness thinking, that was really dumb. But I didn't feel any pain. And I thought, okay, I'm not doing that again. Let's go to the bathroom and see how much damage I've done. I thought maybe singed eyebrows or something. And so I got up, felt my way to the bathroom, and when I turned on the light, everything hit me at once. I saw in the mirror a disaster. My face was all red. My eyebrows completely gone. The hair around here was gone. I had a lot more hair back then, by the way, too. And this hand was just charred. Just third-degree burns. Part of it was me. That's when the pain hit me, and it was really awful. If you've ever been burned, it's the worst kind of pain. And I stuck my hand under the cold water, and it didn't do a thing. And I thought, I'm really going to be in misery for quite a while here. But I didn't have any money. Couldn't go to the doctor, so I did Dr. Karl. And Dr. Karl was not a good doctor. He's an engineer, great engineer, terrible doctor. And so I bandaged my hand, I put it in ice water, and I patched up my face a little bit, and took some antihistamines and hoped for the best. And it wasn't really good. I spent the next 3 days in total misery, couldn't sleep. When I was in my own bed, I was just thrashing all over and groaning, and that was not letting the wife get any, my children get any rest. And so we worked it out that I would sleep on the couch. And so I got out to our couch, and it was a nice, soft couch, but it was way too short for a tall guy like me. And so even though I was lying lengthwise along the couch, I was actually in a sitting position. And while that wasn't comfortable, it was actually prolonging my life. You see, the hot gases from the furnace had gone up my nose and in my mouth and down my throat and into my lungs. And they had seared my lungs. It also blasted rust into my eyes. So by the third day, the eyes were infected. And there's pus in them I could hardly see. I'd have to clean them out every few minutes. And I had the worst throat. Excuse me. I had the worst sore throat I can ever remember. I couldn't eat, couldn't drink, couldn't even hardly swallow my own saliva without agony. I knew it wasn't good, but I thought, I'll just tough it out. And I don't want to run up any bills right now, so that's what it was, my plan. And late the third night, I was sitting on the couch, and I thought, I just want to lie down so bad. I thought, maybe if I lie down, I could get some sleep, because I hadn't slept in 3 days. And I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's not fun. So I thought, if I pull the couch cushions out and lay them on the floor, I will have, a soft place to lie down, and I can probably get some sleep. So I pulled the cushions off the couch, laid them out on the floor, and then I lay down, and I thought, this is great. And then my hands started throbbing. Great. I got to get up and get my bowl of ice water. Only I couldn't get up. I was like paralyzed. And I not only couldn't get up, but I discovered I couldn't breathe either. I thought, this is not right. How come I can't breathe? And what had happened was my lungs had been filling up with fluid inside. And as soon as I lay down, all that fluid had gone up to the top of my lungs, and my lungs were now full of fluid. And I'd been surviving just off the tops of my lungs with all that fluid in there. And now I was drowning in my own living room. It's midnight, and everybody else is in bed. And I can't make a sound, and I cannot get up. And I thought, I'm going to die. I'm going to suffocate. And I didn't like that idea at all. But there weren't any options. I couldn't summon help. I couldn't help myself. I was just going to suffocate. And the only thing to do was to pray. And I had taught prayer, so I knew prayer really well. And I started praying eloquent prayers in my mind. Lord, save me. I followed the scriptures, and I was praying and praying and praying. And as I was praying, I was gradually losing consciousness as the oxygen was depleted. And I realized it was almost over. And I just wanted to live so much. I had so much to live for. I had difficulties in life, but I had a wife and children and a career. And I, got a whole life. I was 33 at the time. And I'd been a Christian for 17 years. And I loved the idea of going to heaven, but I wasn't eager to go there at that moment. And I thought, I make a deal with God. I'm going to pray a prayer. It's got to be my best prayer. It's got to, whatever I can, put behind it that's going to get his attention. And as my mind was going out, I could think of one last word to pray. And can you think what that word was?
Probably help.
Exactly. Help. And I put behind it the meaning that I would accept help from God on any terms that he had to offer. Whatever terms you want, God, just help me. I want to live. And instantly, all the pain was gone. And the room was brightly lit. And I stood up and I looked around. I was amazed because every light in the room was off. But I could see perfectly well in there. In fact, I normally wear glasses. I have astigmatism on the near side of this. But I didn't need glasses. And I looked around and I thought, the lights are off. And there are no shadows. What is going on here? I thought, God has healed me. I am supernaturally, amazingly healed. And I was born with scoliosis in my back, so I always have low-grade back pain, and it was completely gone. And my throat was fine, and the burns in the hand and the face were not hurting anymore. And I felt so vital. I'd never felt that vital before, full of energy and just vigor. And I could hear. And I was trying out my senses, thinking, wow, this is amazing. And first thing I heard was the sound of trucks. Well, in my neighborhood, trucks are not allowed to drive. The nearest street that you can drive trucks on is 5 blocks away. And ordinarily you can't hear them, but I was hearing them as they were driving up the street. And I thought, the hearing is amazing. And I listened some more, and I could hear the little insects moving around in the walls of the house. And I thought, I got to get exterminated. And then I tried my eyesight out, and it was amazing. I looked around the room, and everything was sharp and clear. The colors were a little different. They were more pastel looking than what I would normally consider to be the normal palette colors. And I looked at the window, and I could see these screen wires, the wires in the aluminum screen there. And I looked closely at them, and I saw that I could see the flakes of corrosion on the wires. They're aluminum wires. And I thought, that's like microscopic vision. And then I looked through the window at the neighbor's yard. I'm looking across the street at his lawn, and I'm looking between the blades of grass, and I can see individual grains of dirt in his lawn across the street in the dark at midnight. And I probably could have seen further than that if my view hadn't been blocked. I couldn't see through solid things. You could see through glass. And then my sense of smell was incredible. I smelled smells I'd never smelled before, and I knew what they were. I smelled the paper in the books on the shelf. I smelled the wallpaper. I smelled the furniture polish. I smelled the paint on things, and I knew what they were. And I was like, I'd never smelled them before, but I knew exactly what I was smelling. And I thought, oh. And I was enjoying this for a moment, and then I looked down on the floor. Oh. And I saw my body on the floor, and I said, I'm not healed. I'm dead. I said, no, this is not good. So I thought, well, I need to get some help. So I thought, I'll go to the nearest room and see if I can wake up one of my family members. And my daughter's room was the closest one. And so I walked down the hallway to her room, and I grabbed at the doorknob, and my hand went right through the doorknob. And I thought, she's a problem. But I'm a problem solver, so I know what the solution is. I just walked through the door. And I did. And it was an interesting sensation when I walked through a door for the first time. As I passed through the door, I could feel the door around me, and it felt like this cool stream of something weighty was falling over me, like cool sand, or even heavier than that, like lead, like a metal or something. And as I walked through it, my vision disappeared while I was inside it. I went black. And then when I got on the other side, I was in my daughter's room, and I looked around. Lights are off, but everything is perfectly visible. And so I walked to my daughter's bed. Alexandra, or she's about, this is 1995, so she'd have been about 4 years old. She was asleep in her bed, and I went over and put my hand on her shoulder to wake her up, and my hand went right to her shoulder, and she did not even respond. And I said, Alex, wake up. I've got an emergency. She didn't hear me. No response. She couldn't wake her up, couldn't get her to feel anything, couldn't get her to hear anything. And then I thought, well, I can't wake up Alex. Maybe I can wake up my son. And so I realized I was running out short of time. I knew that the human brain dies after about 5 or 6 minutes without oxygen. And so I just really had to act quickly. So instead of going out to the hallway again and going down the hall to his bedroom door, where the closets in their respective rooms back up to each other. And so I just walked into her closet, walked straight through the wall, the clothes and wall, and came out in my son's room. And he was asleep in the bed. I tried the same routine with him that I tried with Alex. No response. And I said, I'm running out of time. I can't get help. I'm going to have to solve this myself. And so I went through his door and down the hallway back to the living room, and knelt down by my body. And as I was kneeling by the body, I had this sensation of something really evil was approaching me. And if you watch a horror movie and you're expecting something really bad to happen, and the music changes and it gives you the goosebumps. So if I'd had skin, I would have had goosebumps. If I'd had hair, they'd been standing out. But, I didn't have my body at that point. But I knew something really bad was about to happen. And then right through the windows in my living room come two creatures that I'd never seen before. They were human-sized, about 6 foot. They had normal human proportions, except they were very muscular, but also very emaciated, like someone who had worked very hard and never been really properly fed. And they were not wearing any clothes, but they were covered with a black short fur. And they had hands and feet, but instead of fingernails, they had talons. And then their ears were pointed. And then the really interesting feature about how they looked was that their eyes were solid yellow and seemed to glow. And when they opened their mouths, I could see white fangs. They had like vampire-like fangs and a bright red tongue. And I just remember that as being very stark contrast to their otherwise color. And in their hands, they were the two of them were each carrying a set of manacles, one for hands, one for feet. And they were coming at me, and they were laughing. And I was like, "Who are you? Or what are you doing here?" And they said, "We're come to take you to hell." And I was like, "I'm a Christian. I'm saved. You can't be taking me to hell. I'm going to heaven if I'm not going to come back alive again." And they laughed at that. They thought that was hilarious. And immediately they just blasted at me this list of all the sins I had never dealt with. And I was like, well, I said my sinner's prayer, and I, confessed to other sins and stuff, but there was things in there I never even thought were sins. For example, just to get, Kurt with a cashier at the store because things were taking too long, or she made a miscalculation. That's enough to send you to hell. I was surprised at that. And then, if you broke a promise, that was bad. If you owed anybody money and you didn't pay it, that was wrong. So this is wrong. And there were so many of them. I was like, okay, and you got me, but I'm going to fight this, because then they showed me hell and what they were going to do to me in hell. And I don't have words to describe it. You ever read Mary Baxter's A Divine Vision of Hell? That's tame. That is tame compared to what I saw. It was just, hell is so terrible that no matter what happened to me, I could not hate someone enough to wish them to go to hell. And I thought, I am not doing this. I've got to find a way out of this. And in that state, I could remember every detail of my life with total recall, and I could process that information extremely fast. And so in just less time than it takes to tell about it, in less than a second, I reviewed my entire life looking for any clue what to do in this situation. So, Vlad, what would you have done?
I would try to figure out a way how to get back into the body.
Yeah, that was one of my plans, but I didn't have time for that. So I remembered back in the early 80s, I was going to a house church called the Plainsboro Gospel Fellowship. And there was this really remarkable fellow. His name was David Gerlin. I call him Dave. Dave was a real Jesus person. He was always talking about the Holy Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit and angels and demons. And he would give me books by John G. Lake and other authors. And, to be polite, I listened to him and I read his books, but I didn't really know what to do with them because I didn't have any context to use them. And I never met a demon or an angel, so what do I do with that? Well, he had said something to me there that was a real life saver for me. He said, Karl, if you ever meet a demon, rebuke it in the name of Jesus Christ. Well, they were almost in my face at that point. They almost had those chains on me. And if they had done that, I think I would have been lost for eternity. And I said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. And it was like a wrecking ball hit them. They were not clear out of the room. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to hell, at least not right away. So, but the judgment day is still coming and I'm not saved. I've got to get back in my body because there's some serious issues to deal with here. And so I knelt back down by my body and I was feeling around trying to figure out how to reanimate this thing, how to get back into that body and how to, live again. And I figured I got about 2 or 3 minutes here to figure this out. So I better do it quickly. And while I was doing that, I got another sensation and it was a very good one. I felt that something very, very good was coming and approaching me, and there was love, and there was things I can't describe with English words, but it was good. It was just really perfect, beautiful. And then right through my front door, he didn't use the window like the devils did. Right through my front door comes Jesus Christ. And the first thing he said to me was, Karl, this is not my true appearance. I'm appearing this way, so you'll recognize me. To this day, I don't know why he had to do that. Because in the spirit, when you meet an entity, a person, you know exactly who you're dealing with. You know, there's no question who you're dealing with. And I knew I was dealing with the Lord, Jesus, because he just emanated such godlike qualities. There was absolute assurance about him. There was a sense of authority, a sense of power. And it was really powerful. I knew he could have annihilated me with just a thought. It was kind of terrifying, too. But then he put me at ease. He told me he knew all the sins that the demons had listed, and he knew all about me, and he just loved me unconditionally. And that was exactly what I needed to hear right then and there, because I knew I was lost, but he loved me, even in my lost state. I thought that was very profound. And then he went on to say that he was disappointed in me because I had not lived the life that the Father had intended for me. And I was kind of surprised at that because I had lived, according to what had been taught by the church leadership, almost a letter-perfect Christian life. And you know what? He said, you rank. And I said, he told me, you can go to heaven now because you invoked me. And my word says, if anyone calls upon the name of the Lord, they will be saved. But you will go to heaven as the lowest of all saints. You will have no rank and no reward. It took me he didn't explain why exactly then, but I figured it out later that the problem was that my motives were wrong. I had not done the things because I loved God or because I loved others or even that I loved myself, because I didn't at that time. And so with the wrong motives, it means nothing. And so all of that was effort and money I donated, the time I donated, all the things I did. I spent a lot of time doing evangelism and so forth. It didn't mean anything to him because it wasn't done for the right motive. I was just trying to get out of hell and maybe get a heavenly reward. So this is what I would call pragma. In Greek, the word pragma is where we get pragmatism from. And what he was looking for was love, agape, and he would settle for Philos. You know what story with Peter. But this wasn't either agape or Philos. This was just pragma. And that's not a currency in heaven. Well, so I could go to heaven at that point. But he said, if you go to heaven now, if you die now, your children are not going to make it. They're going to go to hell because they're not going to get raised right. So he gave me the option of coming back to this life. But he warned me, if I came back to this life and I did not get it right with God, I could still go to hell. And I was just actually terrified about going to hell. That was not something I wanted to do, but I love my children. I really did. And the thought of them going to hell was unacceptable too. And I also knew that that's what he wanted. So I agreed to come back.